It was one of those perfect mornings in the mountain sunlight slanting through pines, birds singing, the lake catching glints of gold as the wind rippled its surface. My wife and I were sitting on the porch, sipping coffee, content to watch the world wake up around our cabin. We had saved for years to buy this place, our sanctuary, far from city noise and politics. But peace was always fragile here, because we had her for a neighbor. I heard it first before I saw it, the shriek of tires on gravel, an engine roaring too aggressively for a sleepy lane. Then the honking started, blasts that were too long and too angry, like a foghorn with something to prove. I watched a beige SUV fishtail slightly as it came tearing around the bend, dust billowing behind it like some demented parade float. My wife set her mug down carefully. "Well," she said, deadpan, "looks like the HOA morning patrol is here." I exhaled slowly, already feeling my blood pressure rising. Karen, our local tyrant in designer knockoffs, the self-appointed enforcer of rules she half understood and fully weaponized. She wasn't officially the HOA president anymore. That title had been voted out of her sticky fingers in a humiliating meeting last fall. But power is a hard thing to give up, especially when you don't have much else going for you. Her SUV screeched to a halt halfway across our gravel drive. She didn't bother parking like a normal person. She just flung the door open so hard it bounced. Then she stomped out in her pink windbreaker and oversized sunglasses, clutching a folder like it was some holy decree. She didn't bother with pleasantries. "This is unacceptable," she screamed, voice cracking with rage. My wife tilted her head like she was listening for bird calls. I felt the old urge to grin, because despite everything, she loved these showdowns. But I kept my own face still. Karen was advancing now, the folder clutched to her chest, a wagging finger leading the charge. "You think you can just break the bylaws because you're special. Is that it? Well, I'm here to conduct an inspection." "Good morning to you too," my wife said coolly. "Don't you good morning me. I have received numerous complaints." "From who?" I asked. She ignored me. She shoved the folder in my face so hard I flinched. It was stuffed with papers, most of them printed emails and old newsletters she'd marked up with a red pen like some deranged English teacher. "This," she shouted, tapping furiously, "is the record of your repeated violations. Unauthorized landscaping, illegal color paint on your door, non-compliant window treatments, and let's not forget." She spun theatrically to point at our driveway. "You have more than 2 cars on the property." I looked. We had 1 car and a beat-up pickup. I spread my hands. "Karen, you can't even count." She turned scarlet. "You shut up. I'm here in my capacity as former HOA president," my wife said. Karen's lips curled back. She was practically spitting. "Don't get smart with me. I am authorized. I have the right to inspect your property at any time." "That's not actually true," I said, but I was drowned out by the sound of Karen's shrieking. "I'm coming in," she bellowed. She actually started stomping toward our front steps, her cheap knockoff boots grinding the gravel with each angry stomp. My wife stood up slowly. She was calm, too calm. I felt a thrill in my gut, because I knew she had something planned. Karen's shouting was like a siren at this point. "You can't stop me. I will cite you. I will fine you. I will take this to foreclosure if I have to. You're not going to ruin the value of this community with your tacky decorating choices and your constant disregard for the rules." My wife crossed her arms. "Karen, don't step on that porch." Karen didn't even slow down. She actually started muttering legal jargon. She clearly didn't understand. "I'm entitled under the HOA regulations to enter any property for inspection. You can't impede an authorized officer. It's in section 3-7-. You're trespassing, I pointed out. No, I'm not. This is an inspection. She was up the first step now. She had her hand out to grab the railing, ready to haul herself right onto our porch, like some furious raccoon. My wife's voice dropped. It got soft and deadly. Karen, stop. Karen froze for just a half second. But then she spat. I knew you're hiding something, that's it. I'm going in. And with that she took another step forward, folder clutched like a weapon, mouth open in a victorious sneer. I watched her, a sick amusement rising in my chest despite the fury simmering there, because she was so sure she'd won. So sure she was the hero here, saving the neighborhood from the horror of our pale green front door and flower boxes. I glanced at my wife. She was still calm, watching like a cat watching a mouse. I knew she'd let Karen dig her grave exactly this deep. I knew she'd let the rope pay out all the way so Karen could hang herself with it. And Karen had no idea. Not yet, because Karen didn't know what my wife was about to bring out of the cabin. Karen didn't know that the inspection she thought she was going to conduct would be cut short in the most humiliating, devastating way possible. She had no idea what was coming next, but she was about to find out. Karen planted her foot on the second porch step and leaned forward, face twisted in triumph. She reminded me of some wind-up toy that had hit a wall and kept trying to ram through it on pure screaming force. Move aside, she ordered, jabbing that ridiculous folder at my wife's chest. I'm going in, now. I'm not going to argue with you anymore. My wife didn't move an inch. Her eyes were cool, assessing, as if Karen was some strange insect that had crawled into our breakfast. She didn't even blink. Karen, she said slowly, voice as even as I'd ever heard it. You're trespassing. You don't have permission to enter this property. Step back. Karen's laugh was high and unhinged. Trespassing? Oh, please, don't be ridiculous. The HOA rules are clear, crystal clear. I can inspect any property for compliance at any time. Section 3-7-2. I know the bylaws better than you ever will. My wife didn't so much as glance at the folder. You're not with the HOA board anymore, Karen sneered. Irrelevant. I'm on the compliance committee now. I couldn't help it, I snorted. She whipped her head toward me, eyes bulging. Think this is funny, she screeched. I held up my hands, honestly, kind of. She let out a strangled scream and spun back to my wife. You have exactly 3 seconds to let me inside, or I'm fining you for obstruction. My wife's face didn't change. She let the silence stretch. 1 breath, 2, 3. Karen made a sound like a boiling tea kettle and lunged up the last step onto our porch. She was in my wife's face now, close enough to spit on her. That's it, Karen hissed. I'm done being nice. I'm done warning you people. You've been a blight on this community since the day you moved in. Your parties, your weird friends, that horrible door color, the trash cans I still see at the curb on non-collection days. You think you can just do whatever you want. My wife's mouth twitched. Barely, but I saw it. Karen didn't. She was on a roll now, red-faced and breathless. I'm going to inspect every single room in there, she shrieked, slapping the folder against her palm. Every room. I'll take photos. I'll issue citations for every violation. I'll make sure you pay thousands in fines. I'll take this to the board. And if they won't do it, I'll go to court myself. Don't think for a second you can stop me. My wife let her finish. She waited for the last echo of Karen's yell to die against the trees. Then she said, almost conversationally, Karen, you really don't want to go inside. Karen's eyes lit up in vicious delight. Aha, I knew it. You are hiding something. This is an admission of guilt. I'm noting that. I'm noting your refusal to comply. This is grounds for immediate penalties. Do you even read the bylaws? She flipped open the folder and started rifling through it with shaking hands, index finger stabbing the pages. Here, see. The HOA reserves the right to enter and inspect any property for compliance at reasonable times. And guess what? I think right now is a reasonable time, given your blatant disrespect for the rules. I watched my wife's eyes narrow just a fraction. That was the only warning Karen didn't notice. She was too busy crowing, waving her papers like victory flags. I'm going to make sure everyone knows you're uncooperative. You're going to be a community example. I'll take this all the way to the county if I have to. You'll be sorry you ever moved here. You'll be. My wife took a single step forward. It was enough to make Karen falter. Karen, she said softly. Leave now. Karen's mouth flapped open. Did you not hear me? I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. You're not in charge here. I am. My wife tilted her head. That's your final answer? Karen made a triumphant little squeal. Yes, yes. My final answer is that I'm going inside that cabin right now. And if you so much as touch me, I'll have you arrested for assault. I'll own this property when I'm through with you. She stepped even closer, so they were nearly nose to nose. My wife didn't back down. I was so tense I could hear my own heartbeat. Karen was shaking with fury. She jammed the folder into my wife's shoulder. Move. My wife didn't. She didn't flinch. She didn't blink. Karen's voice dropped to an ugly whisper. You think you're better than us, all you city people, coming here to ruin our community. We have rules, we have standards, and you're going to follow them if it's the last thing I do. My wife's eyes were hard now, like stone. Karen smiled. It was the ugliest thing I'd ever seen on her. I'm going in. Try and stop me. She took one more step. That was it. My wife's hand twitched at her side. I saw it. Karen didn't. Karen actually set her foot on the threshold of our front door, fingers closing around the handle. She turned back to us with a look of gloating triumph so bright it was almost unhinged. You can't stop me, she spat. My wife exhaled, slowly. She sounded tired. Karen, she said, voice low and clear, I warned you. Karen cackled. Warn me about what? Your empty threats, your fake authority. This is my neighborhood. You don't get to say no. My wife's mouth curved. Just barely, not a smile, more like a promise. She took a step back, but she didn't yield the door. She was done arguing. I could see it. And for the first time, Karen seemed to sense it too. Her manic energy faltered for half a second, confusion flickering in her eyes. My wife just turned without another word and walked inside. Karen sputtered, Hey, where do you think you're going? I'm not finished with you. But my wife didn't answer. She was already inside, fetching exactly what she needed to shut Karen down for good, and for the first time all morning, I felt my own anger melt into anticipation. Because I knew what was coming, and Karen had no idea at all. Karen stood on our porch like she owned the place, still gripping the door handle with white-knuckled authority. She was mumbling to herself now, a low stream of self-righteous noise. Her folder tucked under her arm like it was a weapon, a badge, a crown. Her face was flushed, jaw clenched, nostrils flaring every time she breathed. She can't talk to me like that, she muttered. I'm not some nobody. This is my neighborhood. I built this place. I run this place. If she thinks she can intimidate me with her smug attitude and her smirking, she's got another thing coming. This isn't over. I'll report her. I'll report both of them. HOA complaint forms, police, maybe even a lawyer. I'll have them evicted, fined into bankruptcy. I stayed silent, leaning against the porch railing, watching her unravel in real time. I wanted to say something, but the truth was, I didn't need to. My wife was handling it, and Karen, poor, oblivious Karen, had no idea what kind of force she had just poked. From inside, I heard the sound of a drawer opening, slow, deliberate, then the creak of a lockbox being opened, metal against metal. Karen didn't hear it, too lost in her own hurricane of petty vengeance. She was practically vibrating with fury and imagined victory, flipping through her file folder as if the sheer volume of paperwork would grant her legal omnipotence. "She's going to regret this," she hissed again. "Oh, she will. I've got pictures. I've got timestamps. Her trash bins alone are 4 separate violations. And that stupid gnome statue in their garden, grounds for a decorative nuisance citation. I'll bury them in forms. She doesn't know who she's messing with." Then the door creaked open behind her. My wife stepped out slowly, casually, as if she hadn't just walked into the lion's den. But she wasn't holding her phone. She wasn't holding a letter or a citation or a court document. No, in her hand was a folded piece of paper. Crisp, official, and embossed with a golden seal. Karen spun around, already starting to yell. "About time. I hope you're ready too." Then she saw what my wife was holding. The color drained from her face in an instant. She squinted at the seal, then at the text. Her eyes darted between the paper and my wife's face, as if trying to calculate what exactly she was seeing and whether she should be afraid. My wife offered the document, extending it toward her like a gift. "You wanted to inspect the inside of the cabin," she said evenly. "Then I suggest you start with this." Karen didn't take it at first. She just stared at it, mouth slightly open. What is that?" she asked. "A warrant," my wife said calmly. Karen snorted, confused. "A warrant for what? I'm not the one breaking laws here. You're the ones with non-compliant porch lighting. Read it." Karen reached out like someone touching something she thought might burn. She unfolded the paper slowly, eyes scanning the text. It only took a few lines. Her mouth opened, then closed. Then opened again. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Because the paper she was holding wasn't just any warrant. It was a federal search warrant for her property. Karen staggered back a step, nearly tripping over the threshold. This can't be real," she said. "This is a mistake, a prank, a forgery. Is this some kind of joke?" "No joke," my wife said. "Issued last week, after months of investigation, signed by a federal judge. You can check the watermark if you like." Karen looked like she'd been punched. She shook her head violently. "Investigation? What investigation? I haven't done anything wrong. I'm the one trying to protect the community." My wife raised an eyebrow. "Really? Because the financial statements for the HOA seem to disagree. So do the duplicate vendor payments and the fake landscaping contracts." I watched as Karen's eyes went wide. "Really wide? That's not my fault," she stammered. There were errors. I didn't approve those budgets directly. It's a team effort." "Except you are the one who forged the treasurer's signature," my wife said smoothly. "We traced it, not to mention the phantom company you funneled funds through, registered in your cousin's name, but the bank account leads back to your address." Karen's knees buckled, and she grabbed the porch post to steady herself. Wait, you're with the HOA?" she asked weakly. My wife smiled. "No, Karen, I'm with the Office of the Inspector General, Financial Crimes Division. I moved into this neighborhood because we had credible intelligence that someone was siphoning HOA funds for personal use." "You made it easy to confirm." Karen was pale now. Her mouth worked silently for a moment before she croaked. "You set me up." "You set yourself up," my wife replied. "You just couldn't resist trying to control everything. Even now, charging up our driveway, threatening us, breaking onto the property like some suburban warlord. You exposed yourself." The paper fluttered from Karen's fingers to the ground. She looked utterly lost. A woman who had ruled a neighborhood with fear and fine slips, suddenly stripped of her power and exposed for what she truly was. Just then, two unmarked black SUVs rolled quietly up the drive. Their timing was perfect. Karen's eyes widened in horror as the doors opened, and several plainclothes agents stepped out. "No," she whispered. "No, no, 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 no." But it was already too late. They approached the porch, badges raised. One of them looked at Karen with cold efficiency. "Karen Mitchell?" he asked. She didn't respond. She was frozen. "You're under investigation for embezzlement, wire fraud, and falsification of financial records. You'll need to come with us." And just like that, the self-proclaimed queen of the HOA sat down hard on the porch step, folder forgotten at her side, eyes blank, mouth hanging open. Not a single word left her lips. The woman who never stopped screaming had finally gone silent. Karen didn't even try to run. She sat there on our porch step, like her legs had turned to concrete, staring blankly at the agents who approached with crisp, practiced movements. The folder she'd been waving like a royal decree lay in the dust beside her boot, pages fluttering in the breeze. HOA violations now worthless scraps. My wife stayed perfectly still beside me, arms folded, watching without the slightest flicker of gloating. She wasn't the type to gloat, but I could see it in her eyes, that cold, quiet satisfaction of someone who had worked months for this moment, building the case brick by damning brick, until there was nowhere left for Karen. Slither, the lead agent, a tall man with dark hair in an immaculate windbreaker, read from a small notebook. "Karen Mitchell, you are under investigation for embezzlement, wire fraud, and misappropriation of community association funds. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." Karen's mouth opened once, twice, but she couldn't seem to form any words. Her eyes darted between the agent and my wife, wild and wet with confusion. She managed a choked squeak. "But this is a mistake. You don't understand. I'm the HOA president, former president," my wife corrected, voice as dry as autumn leaves. Karen turned on her like an animal caught in a trap. "You did this. You're behind all of this. You set me up." My wife tilted her head almost sympathetically. "No one forced you to forge signatures. No one told you to funnel dues into fake companies. You did that on your own. All I did was follow the money." Karen's face twisted. "You liar. You're not even supposed to be here. You're not one of us. You're an outsider." My wife sighed, glancing at the agents. "You see what I've been dealing with." One of them cracked the barest hint of a grin before schooling his features back into professional calm. He nodded toward Karen. "Ma'am, please stand up." Karen didn't move. She was trembling, shoulders hunched like she was trying to curl into herself and disappear. The agent's voice hardened. "Ma'am, now." She jerked at the command, finally pushing herself to her feet, but her knees were shaking so badly she nearly fell back down. She looked at me then as if I might help her. The woman who'd spent months threatening to fine me for leaving my garbage bins at the curb too long, who'd counted my guests' cars like a security guard at a prison, who'd screamed at my wife over flower colors. I didn't move. I wasn't going to save her from this. Two agents moved to either side of her. She tried to say something, anything, to talk her way out, but her voice cracked and died in her throat. One of them gently but firmly twisted her arms behind her back. The handcuffs clicked shut. That sound rang through the pines, small but final. Karen let out a thin wail that curdled into a sob. She went limp for a moment, and they had to hold her up. My wife watched all of it without blinking. When Karen finally found her voice, it was no longer screaming or lecturing. It was begging. "Please," she sobbed. "Please, you don't have to do this. I didn't mean to. It was just." Extra payments. I worked so hard for this neighborhood. I deserve something for all my time. Don't let them take me. Don't let them arrest me in front of everyone. One of the neighbors had come outside by now, peeking from behind a pine. Another stood in their driveway with arms folded, watching without sympathy. Word would spread fast. Karen's audience was assembling without her permission. My wife stepped closer, lowering her voice so only Karen could hear. You could have stopped any time, apologized, fixed the books, resigned, but you couldn't give up the power, could you? Karen's eyes were glassy with tears. She shook her head helplessly. My wife's expression didn't change. You're going to need a good lawyer. The agent at Karen's side nodded to my wife. Thank you for your cooperation, ma'am. We'll handle it from here. My wife inclined her head. Be thorough. She's good at hiding things. Karen whimpered like a wounded animal. You ruined my life, she whispered at my wife, voice raw. You bitch, you evil bitch. My wife just looked at her for a long moment, eyes steady. You ruined your own life, she said quietly. I just turned the lights on so everyone could see it. Karen sobbed harder, but the agents didn't slow down. They guided her off the porch and down the steps, gravel crunching beneath polished shoes. She didn't fight them anymore. The anger was gone. The fire was gone. All that was left was the sad, limp figure of a woman who'd built an empire of fines and threats, and found out it couldn't protect her from the truth. The agents opened the SUV door. She hesitated one last time, turning back to us, eyes pleading and broken. But my wife didn't flinch. Karen ducked her head and climbed in. The door shut with a muffled thud. Engines revved. Tires crunched. And just like that, the SUV turned around and rolled back down our drive, taillights winking red in the dappled light. We stood there in silence, watching them go until the dust settled. The birds started singing again, cautiously, as if checking whether the monster had really gone. Finally, I let out the breath I'd been holding and looked at my wife. She turned to me with the smallest tired smile. Coffee? She asked. I nodded.